Hey everyone, welcome back to Shunya 1, episode 119. Amit, how's it going?
I'm doing good, man. How things been with you?
Well, things are interesting. We are like really racking up these episodes every week. I'm quite happy.
Yeah,
I
we're
think
good.
we finally
We're gone.
adjusted to life working from
Uh,
home.
yes, we did. It took us a year to get there, but hey, we figured it out now. Now we can start our local recordings, or we can start the
Exactly.
recordings with our at our own house. But we got really interesting conversation coming up today. I think.
Absolutely. In fact, all the more, and that's why I pulled out all the fancy gear, as you can see,
I can
uh,
see.
for this audio special conversation. And I said, the world has suddenly become everything conversational and everything audio,
Audio.
and that's why I mean,
Did I tell
due
you I bought an
credit to
iPad?
you, of course.
I bought an iPad.
You bought an iPad just
I bought an iPad. Yeah,
just to get to the Apple
just
ecosystem.
just to get to the Apple ecosystem.
Wow. Okay.
I know
You,
it's taken me 10 years to buy one, but I finally bought one.
Oh man, how
Yeah,
the mighty have fallen.
I know. But hopefully, we have the alternate to the iPad, so most other people don't need to buy that coming up in this conversation we're about to have.
Yes, yes. All right, perfect. So today, before we jump in and talk to our guest, of course, we're going to be talking to Vikas Malpani, the founder of the coolest new audio app to come out of India, called Leher, and it's doing the waves. As the name would suggest, for so many reasons. And we're going to jump in and talk to him about it and a whole lot of other stuff. So, welcome to the show and be right back. All right, welcome back. I'm here with our guest, Vikas Malpani, the founder of Leher. Vikas, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Of course, you are creating waves, as the name would suggest, in this whole new audio format. All three of us here are seemingly pro audio people with all our gear and setup. Uh, Obviously, Amit does this day in and day out. I do this basically on weekends. But you've built an entire product around it. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about, how you actually got into this? Obviously, your own journey as an entrepreneur, and everything that Leher is about.
Thanks, Laditya. I would love to share this. Myself, Vikas Malpani. I'm a computer science graduate, and post my graduation, I started my first company, commonflow.com, an online real estate portal, which was a novelty concept from building communities first or apartment management system. On top of it, building real estate, a very unique concept across the globe, which I also won MIT Tier 35 Young Innovator Award. Post my journey of Common Floor for about 9 odd years, where we ran the company as 8 years as an independent company and had a merger with Quicker in 2016. Ran it for another year with them in a merged format, and we became a unicorn together. Post that, I took some time off and was thinking about what world-changing thing can I attempt next. And being an entrepreneur, you always have these crazy dreams, wild ideas that you would want to really make a difference or a dent in the universe. And I was looking at my opportunity to make that as an Indian entrepreneur. An Indian entrepreneur has one of the largest goals is to build something global in the consumer space from India. And I had been searching that for about a year and a half before I started the journey of Leher in 2018. While when I was thinking about doing this, my predominant uh, parameters were, can I build one global product from India, and what kind of global product does one build in the first place? Second is, can this really make a difference to Indian entrepreneurs, because a global product can change the way we dream, and the Indian entrepreneurs could dream big. And third is, yeah, go after the biggest market possible. So while doing my research, I found out that the time was ripe to build something in the social space and build it. And when I say ripe, it means like at least 2 to 3 years away. Uh, I saw this coming in some sense, that the world will change and the world will become more social. So if you look at the basic definition of socializing, is meeting people, having conversations. And none of our existing social networks did that, right? So all social networks had the construct of post something, broadcast this to people to a network that you already have brought online, which is not conversations, right? It's not really meeting people either too much. So we definitely needed to put social back into social networks and make it more social network and less social media. And that's
Hmm.
where I saw an opportunity for us. Predominantly, India is a mobile first country. We are now the largest independent mobile internet country in the world with close to 500 million, in fact 550 million if you look at WhatsApp's reach already, a million consumers on the internet. And that gives us an advantage that we are mobile first. 90 more than 90% of the people are mobile first. So that's where we thought we have an advantage first time in our lifetimes there where we are ahead of the curve in comparison of the world, right? And then the second thing is we are very natural and expressive people. We love to have great talk. We love to express ourselves. We are very verbal. We have so many dialects. We have so many languages. We are so diverse, right? And this mobile device, typing on a mobile device doesn't do justice to who we are. So it seemed like a great opportunity to bring people around conversations and discussions together and build a new network where you can find like-minded people around the topics of your interest, categories of your interest, create smaller groups and have conversations. Audio first, video optional. So you could actually
Hmm.
either see them or you could just have a free-flowing conversation. And that's where the journey of Leher began. Leher is a live discussions network. You come here, find people around your interest, create your own groups, or just create a room to have a great conversation. You could have free flowing, as you call in Hindi, bakar, or you could have structured conversations with Q&A, polls. The system is very interactive. You could have passive active participations while the conversation is going on. You could comment and have a side conversation going on with all the people who are there. You could actually ask questions to people who are speaking. You could jump into and become a speaker, listener. The idea is that how can we replicate the physical form of socializing in the virtual world? And given that 2020 was predominantly COVID, it made more sense for people to really open up their minds, saying, okay, look, socialization can happen in the virtual world. And audio, first, is a great way to get started. And eventually, when as people become more and more comfortable, we also believe people would like to see each other the way we are seeing right now. And in a steady state, basically, at the core of it, what a conversation solves for is loneliness. There are
Mhm.
two kind of loneliness. There's an intellectual loneliness and there is a physical loneliness. And both are increasing trend. Both are increasing trend. If you look at the US data, in 2017-18, when I was doing my research, the loneliness in US adults was 40% in the survey. Uh, if you go and do a search today about loneliness in US, you will get an npr.org survey result which says 60%, 3 years,
Wow.
50% rise. So, yep, we are here. We are going to build something from India for the world, and we hope that you join our journey and we have great conversation and meet amazing people together.
Wow. And I have a lot of questions, but obviously, one by one, right? This is a great insight. What you just shared is obviously, I mean, the fact that loneliness is increasing. I mean, last year we saw that. Obviously, it was just like irrefutable proof. That's how the world we are in. But also from the fact that you started this journey, you said 2018, right? When the world was not yet, obviously COVID had not happened, the pandemic had not forced this into a sort of format to connect with each other. So what was missing in the world then which you saw? Obviously you mentioned like the difference between social media and social networks, but what was missing which you chose to sort of do this format and this sort of, I know the phrase is drop in audio or drop in video. Why that? And
It's a very interesting question. So I will give you a little bit understanding of how networks have evolved, right? The first set of social networks came in early 2000s, and these were predominantly text-based. They also go along with the access to technology, which was at that point in time outside a broadband, right? Right. So at that conjuncture of a broadband and an ability to connect over internet and enough people coming online, and predominantly these were student and early professionals
hmm,
who were coming online. you started having networks over text like Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn or MySpace kind of stuff. And these networks were more like a information dissemination or broadcast networks where you would just post something about your life and everyone will get updated passively, right? So they were very helpful in terms of just keeping in touch, right? And this meant either in professional sense or in the sense of your own friends
Yeah.
or something that you were thinking about. Then the second generation of networks came in 2010, which were at the trisection of 3G, mobile, and photo cameras, right? And this led to a revolution specifically in this segment, where you started seeing Snapchat and Instagram taking over because a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And predominantly you started seeing that happening. And again, but they still were in the same format of me broadcasting everything to the people that I am already connected with,
Yeah.
finding newer people online and broadcasting.
Asynchronous, not
Uh,
synchronous.
and more importantly, it was just about passively updating you, right? Just like if you look at the way they said, what is on your mind? What are you thinking right now? What are you doing right now? So it was basically a question that you were answering to that network to post. It was not a conversation per se. It was just me posting and everyone else consuming very passively, right? And it served a great purpose, specifically just to keep us updated about people that we might care about, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at the trend post 2013 to 15, and this was very accentuated during the Trump and Modi election, is that you started seeing a very interesting thing. No longer people were just posting about what's happening in their life, which was like, I'm here, I eat this, I look like this is my dog, this is my wife, this is where I holiday, this is
Yeah.
something happened in my life. These were the predominant things that were happening earlier. Or people were playing Farmville and saying, come play the game with me, kind of stuff. Predominantly
Yeah.
non-harmful or non-harmful broadcast specific content. But what was happening in 2013 to 15, while during this time, when see, you cannot really be doing cool stuff every day, right? So it becomes a
Yeah.
very hard thing for you to share. But what is happening on a daily basis is that you're consuming a lot of information. And with these broadcast networks, suddenly we started going from an information deficient world to an information surplus world, right?
Yeah.
And this happened like overnight for a lot of people. So people started expressing and sharing their opinions and experiences on these platforms.
Yeah.
As long as it was just a monologue, it was okay, right? Okay, this happened with me and blah blah. That was okay. People will empathize with you. People will comment and like and stuff, right? And the construct was you post and people comment at it, right? People
Yeah.
talk at you. That's the construct that you actually have within the social networks. But what started happening with opinions, etc. See, I chose to follow you because I might remotely be connected with you. I'm just interested remotely in what's happening in your life, but I may not be interested in the same topics and subjects. I may not
Yeah.
be very keen on hearing your opinions, or I might very differ on your opinions. So that started bringing clashes because people started commenting on someone's opinion, and then people got offended because why are you commenting on this and blah blah. So what people are trying to do, people are trying to connect over conversations, and these platforms were not serving the need. There was no single platform that was really serving the need. The only platforms that really serve this need are the forums. And that, if you
Yeah.
actually see, I might share the graph with you. Of all the networks, etc., you would see a curve that is dipping a bit, right? At times. There's
Mhm.
only one network, or I don't even think we can call this a network, called Reddit. Its
Yeah.
graph is like this. It's still increasing.
It's only growing.
It's the only company that has been continuously, steadily increasing from 2005. Why? Because it's fundamentally built for conversations and discussions. And that's where you can be subjective, you can have various opinions, and people can counter, and you can get educated and everything else. And there's no other place where you could do this really well. And forums
Mm.
are like one of the oldest constructs of internet, and they definitely needed a revolution. So the way, for example, blog got revolutionized to micro blogging, and then you had Twitter, and then you now are looking at just updating your status, which is also micro blogging per se, right? uh, this needed to change. We needed to be able to do, because
Mm.
only people who could write well could actually participate in the forum, right? So
Mm.
this needed to change. And that way, microblogging and posting on social networks democratized self-expression. We had to
Mm.
democratize discussions where people could participate based on their interest, based on what they care about, based on their experience, professional, personal passions. And they could join these networks and have had meaningful conversations. And this was the core insight beside on which we were trying to build up. And also, as I said, only once in a decade a new network emerges, right?
Yeah.
So at 2018, it looked like the right time to get started because you can't just jump on a running bus. You have to, if you have to innovate, you have to be early and you have to run before and then you get onto a running bus, right? So that's how we went about it.
So that's really interesting. So what you're saying is you see Leher as more of an evolution of discussion forums rather than a broadcasting network, or rather than a place for, rather than a form of media. It's more of it's just an it's an evolutionary forum, which I think is really interesting. And you're right, that is I think that is the bigger need, right? I mean, like another broadcasting medium, there are hundreds of them.
Yeah.
So all networks will be media, but not all media will be network,
Hmm,
right? So all social networks are social media, but all not all media is a network, right? So
right.
even here you would see people using it very well to be able to articulate, discuss, debate, and become it as a media where other people could consume, right?
Hmm,
But predominantly, it's about bringing people together with various perspectives, a peer-to-peer level of exchange of discussion instead of the. So today, if you look at predominantly your discussions and your conversations are driven by what's happening at the government or the media level, right?
Yeah.
hmm.
So your conversations are kind of semi-controlled by government or media. And how much do you trust them, by the way?
Not
Not
much.
yes.
Yeah.
Except for IVM. Everybody trusts IVM. We're the most trusted network
So
in the world.
I think you are independent media. You are not really the mainstream media that we are talking about, right? Which is broad and it's going to
And
everyone
I was
else,
being somewhat sarcastic. I mean,
right?
like, there are lots of people who don't trust us either.
Right. So what happens with media? What is happening because of that is that the last frontier of trust is people to people trust, right? And there is no peer to peer way of having discussions and conversations, and that's where
Hmm.
this new network is going to sit and let that happen, right? It's very early days. Everyone's trying to scratch their head. Oh, is this a social audio trend, or is this a fad? Is this like a prisma, right? I fundamentally believe that look, this is not a trend or this is not a fad. This is a fundamental need. The need that Leher is catering to is your need of belonging. Your need of belonging. Why? Because that's the fundamental way you connect with people. And
Yeah.
conversations is the medium through which you do this, right? And this has existed since we were uh, Stone Age. We had to form a tribe. We had to have communicate with each other to trust each other so that we can have safety in groups. And this is the same thing that's happening. We are forming newer tribes in the way more intellectual way because the physical safety is already guaranteed nowadays to a certain extent. So now it's more about intellectual and safety from a perspective of what you believe in.
That's a very interesting the phrase you mentioned, right? The In fact, what you started with, right? We are intellectually lonely. I think that's the two things you mentioned here. The fact that the loneliness is also intellectual loneliness, uh, and the fact that obviously there is so much information to consume, but you're looking for like either like-minded or people you can at least debate and discuss that to a more granular detail with. The major difference, obviously, like you said, is we used to do this in our own physical groups. We used to do this in office groups. We used to do this in home family extensions, obviously friends catching up. We used to bond over sports events and so on and so forth. So there's so much that humans as groups were already doing. uh, why didn't it translate to the internet much sooner, beyond Reddit, which was just text? Like, what was
So
missing beyond the bandwidth and all those considerations aside?
So actually, if you look at it, did translate. If you look at a TripAdvisor, it is a translation of this. If you look at a Quora, it's a translation of this. It translated only to text because it cannot translate on photo, right? To a certain
Mhm.
extent, memes became a way of expressing and having a discussion where me post a meme, another meme, another meme, another meme, right?
Right.
But on picture, you can't do this, and there was no place where you could really do it otherwise, right? That's what the gap that existed. Also, you have to understand the behavior that you are mentioning in your even in your personal life. You have seen a decrement in that. Why?
Yes.
Because you have so much consumption happening all the time, continuously. And on an average, when I was doing my research, I read somewhere that on an average an adult was spending about 5 hours 43 minutes on his smartphone, and close to 2 hours just consuming video on
Hmm.
the smartphone in a day, not in a week, in a day. right?
Yeah,
And if you're
I believe
consuming
that.
so much information, there is a theory that I believe in as an information asymmetry, I call it, right? So if you look at the way society evolved, all the people in the physical plane were generally at the same level of information symmetry, right? So if you look at a village, if there a child was born, by afternoon everyone knew कि यहाँ पे बच्चा हुआ है, right? And everyone was congratulating, right? If something broke, news broke, everyone knew. A little asymmetry started when your newspaper started arriving, right? When people get a news, people who could read were at a higher plane of information versus everyone else. It started getting a little more diverse as television came in, then cable
Yeah,
TV came in. But still, what used to happen is at least there was a physical plane where everyone could come together because these were shared experiences. A newspaper, everyone would have the same newspaper. People would have watched the same television news or radio, etc. Or people were listening to IBM. Podcast would we are all on the same plane of understanding, right? But what has started happening in the physical realm, this magical device, the mobile, which is the most personalized device ever built in the world, has taken us to different rabbit holes altogether. And I'm pretty sure all of you would have experienced that. Four of us in a on a dinner table and no conversation happening, right?
yeah,
Your mom saying, take your phone off, talk to each other, kind of scenario. Why is this happening? This is crazy. This is not who we are as humans. We are generally social because that's how we felt safety. But why are this being forced? Because what's happening is this device that we have is actually taking us much deeper into our passions, right? And we are at an information plane which is much deeper than everyone else in the surrounding. And that's why you find it difficult to find people to have good conversation with. It is not that you won't want conversation. In fact, you really want conversation and you are connected all the time. But today you can't find people who are equally passionate about the same thing in the physical plane. One, because you are so busy consuming, you don't have time to find people. Two,
yeah.
because everyone has different taste and people are becoming super specialized in their needs and super hard on their views, and biases are kicking in because the algorithms will keep feeding you what you have seen. Now all these is creating a lot of asymmetry, because otherwise how do you justify a 60% loneliness number on a survey when we are the most connected ever? We have at least two devices everyone has which is connected 24/7, and we are the highest number of humans on the planet ever. Over
Yeah.
7 billion of us, and there is a 50% increase in loneliness. In Botswana, I read somewhere, they had about 25% people complaining of loneliness. Botswana was a country of tribes. There they are
Mm.
complaining of loneliness. So I don't know where the world is heading, but this is fundamentally broken and needs to be fixed.
No, massive. That's exactly the. I think this is a very good articulation of the actual problem. Also, right? I think this is what we don't realize, that each of us, we don't hate conversation. You're absolutely right.
But we
I mean,
want to
the
talk
fact that,
about stuff we know about and
yeah,
stuff we like
know
talking about,
about,
right?
care about, like,
Yeah.
think we care about, well, for whatever reasons, because it's been fed to us that way.
Yeah,
But
so all
yes,
all of us are doing the traffic conversation and the pollution conversation every day. The same
Because it is,
conversation.
yeah.
Everyone has is passionate about that, and that's the first conversation you will have if you're in any of the metros. You meet someone. Hey man, how much time did you take? Oh man, traffic was bad. It was shit. And then you get passionate. Yeah, I came from this route. I got stuck here. Have you talked about this? But random stranger, no connection. But this is something that you love to talk about, right?
yeah,
And we will do it with if you meet three people in the day, we'll do the same conversation with them because we just are passionate about doing this. So it's not that we don't have enough to talk about. It's don't enough to care about. It's just that we don't have people who also care about the same things, and we can have great conversation with.
awesome, awesome. So let me jump into a little bit more on the tech side of things, right?
Yeah.
Because again, given that we are doing this on a podcast, obviously this is going to get recorded and stay for posterity. It's people are going to listen to the three of us bantering about this topic, and hopefully get form an opinion, or say like or dislike or whatever, or talk to us on social media. But this is a format which again is for, like you said, information dissemination. And for us, it's been, obviously the tech has slowly evolved. We are doing this now on video. We're posting this online on social networks. How challenging was it for you to sort of build the real time part of this platform? And the fact that the conversations are ephemeral and not necessarily recorded. I don't know if you're going into that,
I think
hybrid
they
sort of a
are though,
mode.
right? I mean, like when I
Yeah.
looked at the website, I could see some archives.
Sure.
Yeah.
I haven't played with the app as much yet, but I looked at the
Yeah,
website and
exactly.
I
So
could
it's
see the
it's based on,
Both.
like
Both.
both formats. So what
both
is,
from.
Audio,
yeah.
video, ephemeral, recorded, Android, iOS, we are everywhere. So don't worry.
Okay.
We
Full
have covered. We
flexibility.
have plus consumption via web, right? So we are
Right.
everywhere. So
Yeah.
you can have a consume. So so the way I look at this is that sometimes you don't give users the choices, and it makes it easier for them to do a certain kind of behavior,
Mhm.
right? But over the period of time, as the users get educated and there are specific use cases which are real need, for example, if you are going to do a conversation which is going to be really meaningful, and there are people who are going to miss this because they are at work, right? You would want to record it and disseminate it, right? And
Right.
it's not that they did not want to be heard, it's just that they can't be heard.
Right.
So there, then that optionality in certain cases could be really useful. But on the tech side of things, as you asked, very frankly, it has been a very hard road for us because everything was new. So I come from a real estate web background, and we did a bit of mobile. And 2006, even 2018, mobile wasn't very stable. Even today, it's still maturing as an ecosystem. There are 5,500 versions of Android. Plus, if you do the whole idea of this skinning. So, for example, OnePlus has a very crazy OS. It will behave very weird. If any one of you on OnePlus, you would realize that if there is a call coming in and you are on a WhatsApp call, it will suddenly go weird, right? So you will start instead of speaker, it goes there. Sometimes you're not able to click a link, etc. So now these are the very broken part of the ecosystem. Unlike web also had challenges. It was a browser specific challenge. There were like thousands of versions of browsers, and it was fixable very fast because I could literally ship the code in a
Deploy. Right.
You're
half an hour.
speaking my language, man. Seriously, I love that. I hate this appification of the world.
But
I just
yeah, so the whole
Sriladati, I'm sure feels the opposite at Clever Tap, but I hate the application of the world.
so the whole web was so fast, so immediate, and everything else, and the whole mobile ecosystem is very different. It's so
Mm.
broken, and many a times, see, you can't have 5,500 plus devices on Android and 250 plus devices on iOS, and just from pure devices perspective. So there are like variety of hardware and variety of Android versions and variety of layers on those Android versions to test out, and on top of it, you will have various blockers, etc. Sometimes notification is not going. I'm pretty sure Sitish Shiladit knows that very well. Notification being not delivered. So it was a crazy thing. And
Yeah.
given that we are not, I am personally not very hands-on at this point in time, and I look at more like architecture, infrastructure, understanding. Even a computer science background, I understand stuff, but getting that shit fixed is not easy, right?
Yeah.
So we had to first start doing that right. We had a hybrid approach of web plus app, because you have to also understand we started pre-COVID, right? Pre-COVID, even this podcast, I had to probably drive down to your studio and we would have done that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And this is just 1 year before, just one
yeah,
year. In 1 year,
Yeah.
this the world has changed.
yeah.
So pre-COVID, we had to be a patient innovators. We had to be a patient innovators, and the way people say, right? Don't be where the pug is today. Be where the pug is going to be tomorrow, right? We
Yeah.
had to keep innovating from that perspective. So we did a lot of iteration. So video is very hard on mobile. Even uploading recordings, because uh, a 1 minute full HD recording will be 100 MB plus,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And
Also,
if
sync problems. Like we've
and
used so many different systems where the sound doesn't sync correctly.
yeah,
I mean, like you have audio drift issues because of different processor speeds. All of that stuff you have to solve for, right? If you're
you have
doing it.
so you have some crazy stuff on Samsung, for example. It so there is this concept of end that the phone has to send you across while the
Mhm.
recording is happening. The Samsung will not end. One day there was someone from someone's phone, it uploaded 1.3 GB of a recording, right, for a 1 minute, right. So it's
Oh man.
crazy shit, and we don't know this, right? In fact, in India, mobile audio video, and when we were doing this, there were literally countable companies in the hands, right? And you can't really reach out to them because they are also themselves figuring it out. And one of the
Yeah.
fundamental important things, the reason why I also picked, and there is a very interesting thing that probably you guys would like to know, why we picked discussions, democratizing discussions. Definitely, there is large theory. In 2018, 1918, if you had seen, this was a massive influx of Chinese apps, etc., coming into India, right? And Chinese money coming into India. The whole TikTok wave, and I think TikTok is a phenomenal product, and we used to really appreciate the fact that they have been able to do what they have been able to do, and the tech was like mind blowing, right? So getting in the line of Chinese apps was like a short fire for getting fired, right? Kind of stuff. So we
The irony
knew,
is not lost in that conversation. Huh?
right?
Yeah.
But fundamentally, when I picked this, and I
Hmm.
did not want to think about it as a Bharat first app, or the way that they said let's build for Bharat kind of stuff. And I have a different thesis there, which I might point out a little later. But I knew one thing: Chi- Chinese will not allow democratic discussions.
Hmm.
They cannot build this. So now I need to only focus on the valley side of this. This side is covered, right? They will
Yeah.
not build this. They will not come here. So now I can and I had to take the time to build, understand the technology, the stack. Real time is really hard. All that on and building a mobile, like right now we are doing this on a on a broadband or a fiber on a desktop, which is laptop, which is stable. A mobile is always connecting, and in fact, even if you keep a mobile phone in one place, a 4G is always fluctuating, right? So we have intelligence layer built in, and many a times our audio video is better than what you are seeing on the Zoom, because it adjusts for conversation or discussion to be continued, automatically scaling down your video size, shutting off your video altogether. And we have a way of, even if there is a video conversation happening, you can one click switch it to a podcast mode and listen to it, and in the background you can listen to it. So we had to do a lot of these innovations ourselves. So technology
Hmm.
was something that we really had to do hard. And plus, we are still a very small team, right? We are less than 10 people team. We had to figure all of this out. And kudos to all our technology team. Kudos to my co-founder and CTO Atul, who has been able to manage a product
Wow.
which is standing at a world class, which is scalable today. I can send thousands of people at a time on it, and it will scale. And definitely all our partners in the ecosystem, I think CleverTap is one of them. They have been phenomenal support. So we are a I would say poor startup, right? And revolutionary
Yeah.
products don't get funding. Evolutionary products do get funding a lot, because it's easier from business perspective to evaluate a evolutionary product than a revolutionary product. So
Yeah.
AWS, Google, we are a Google for startup selected startup. So all of them have helped us a lot, and using some of these existing technology stacks have made life much easier for us. But that doesn't take away from the amazing kind of work that my tech team has been putting in to make this possible, and from India, without having a lot of expert help. That's one of the key things. Unlike a
Yeah.
developed ecosystem where you see a lot of players who can help you, we have reached out to whoever we can, but there is not enough experience in the ecosystem to help us much.
That's actually very interesting because we would think that audio was solved. I mean, I'm sure Amit, like he said, there's so much not yet solved, obviously, but you'd think that audio was solved. But what you just explained makes sense because our phones are just too dynamic, actually. I think that as a device, and that's what you guys have really, been able to crack. I obviously want to get into a little bit of the controversial questions around what is happening in the drop-in audio space right now,
Mhm.
and the
The
current
elephant
wave,
in the
right?
clubhouse.
So
I had
yeah,
that
yeah,
joke
yeah.
in my head for the last few months.
So so I want to know what is your, and again, the inside take from your end, right? Obviously you've built a platform and your platform has existed, I would say, even pre Clubhouse, right?
Mhm.
The whole point, I think the thesis behind it is amazing. What do you think has caused the current sort of spurt, and what are you seeing as as a in your platform as well? Like, why is that current spurt happening in the market?
So there is this saying in Hindi, right? समय से पहले कुछ नहीं होता, right? So the whole COVID scenario, people feeling lonely, not having a social way to socialize, etc. they're not even going to a salon so that they can be a video, right? So that's where you have this combination of factors that have never existed before, right?
Yeah.
That have made this possible, right? And I'm just thankful to God that this has happened, because when we started, we didn't know. We said let's have a 3-year horizon and let's see if we can
Yeah.
bring people there. Because as a first mover, a lot of weight is on your shoulders to bring the market there, right? Bring the market, get them
Yeah.
educated, get them the understand the need, etc. Because uh, pe- people are simple. Consumers are very simple minded people, right? They would always they can only see what is there. They can't imagine a next
Yeah.
world, right? And suddenly if the imagination changes, which has happened right now, saying, oh, this is amazingly cool, uh, then that's when they really get onto the wagon and say, wow. That the mind switch has to happen. And I think to a certain extent COVID made that happen. A combination of not being able to really get a very nice grooming yourself also made that happen. And I'm glad that it did. I think every entrepreneur, every product that is being built takes a lot of blood, sweat and tears. Even our competitors I have a tremendous respect about for them, because it's not easy. It's hard. It's very goddamn hard to make the world move. And but when there is only one option, like the way we were, so one option is not our option,
Yeah.
right? So people just try it, saying, okay, kuch naya hai, right? As soon as you have two option, the market is validated, right? Once the market gets validated, then everyone wants to jump in. And this is like the reason I can say this very confidently is that's the same thing happened at Common Four when we were building neighborhood networks. We were the only option. As there more
Mm.
people came in and people started saying, this is something that we need right now. Because you suddenly compare options and not compare your need itself. When there is a first
Yeah.
option, you say, oh, do I really need this? Right? And when you have two options, you're
Yeah.
saying, oh, which one is better? Right? So
Yes.
even if you're not in the
Yes.
market to buy, right? So you end up saying, oh, which one is better? Let me, so I want to pick this, right? And suddenly you're psychologically thinking that way. So I think this is a phenomenal thing that has happened. I think the world is going to get much closer. We don't know the unknown unknowns at this point in time. We will figure it out as we go along. But I hope that this brings people closer. Our mission is to increase the empathy in the world by bringing people closer over discussions and conversations where peer-to-peer exchange of empathy could happen around various perspectives on a topic.
Wow. And I would say you're already ahead in the choice because at least you're on Android. The other guys have said, oh, they saw the 5500 versions of Android and said, oh, me, I'm not doing this.
You're not doing it.
Right. So
I think,
we also had to make some choices to make that happen. We said definitely that we cannot leave people, and we have never seen an Indian company creating a FOMO in the invite way of things, right? So we
yeah,
wanted to keep it open and say all the early adopters, let's come on, and within the platform we will give you a way of filtering. You can create your own clubs, create high quality there, but you get to experience everything. So we will not want to create a door at the beginning itself. Come
mhm,
experience stuff and create high quality networks and create smaller doors where people could filter, channelize, and come create great communities and have great conversations going.
So,
nice.
can I ask you a couple of questions about like how usage patterns on the app are working right now?
Sure.
Do you see is the current usage predominantly Indian, or is there a lot of international mix in there? That would be the first question. The second question I'd
Mhm.
like to ask is in the Indian ecosystem or in the Indian sphere, how much English versus non-English do you kind of see as a language mix?
So both great questions. First is since we started from India and we are predominantly Indian ecosystem driven and we have not spent monies or anything else. We are predominantly Indian. But
Okay.
if you go to my Twitter and yesterday I had to decode a tweet which was apparently in Portuguese where someone was saying some things to people who are using a non-Android version, non-Android available product. Uh, so we see that world is adopting, and they are
Mhm.
cheering for us. They are pushing us, and this is also new for us. We see downloads happening, and not only that, we also see downloads coming from China, right? uh, right. So the interesting thing is, yes, the it's just like a small drumming has started for us,
Mhm.
and the loud noise should get louder and louder. We
Mhm.
believe that as Amit, Shiladitya, everyone comes on board and spreads the word about this, we are 550 million internet users.
Mhm.
we can change the tide anyway, right? So all revolutions happen at our level and not at the top level. If you look at 1947, 1857 in India, it wasn't the elites and the top guys who revolutionized the world or got a freedom, right? They were okay with Swaraj.
Mm.
People like us are going to use Leher and going to promote it and we're going to fight for it. And that's when we will topple and become an independent or breakout ecosystem and start building world class products. That's a personal
Mhm.
belief. I hope to see. So, we are the largest talent powerhouse in the world. All the top CEOs of the world are Indians. All the top companies hire predominantly Indian talent. It's time that we had the
Yeah.
top products from India.
True.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's something we know is happening. I'm sure, and the fact that you're doing this in a space which is so hot and so or rather challenging, I think is going to show that. So that's actually awesome. I mean, what
Sorry,
do you, what's,
if I could just, can I follow up on that again?
sure,
What about
sure.
the language piece that you were?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. So
Yeah.
what happens on Leher is that it's a English, right? So
Okay.
Hmm.
so since it is like people being themselves, you will start seeing
Mm.
English. You'll start seeing English, depending on, let's say, some there are people who say, okay, I'm not comfortable with that, probably
Right.
there, and people are very free flowing and natural that way, right? All the
Okay.
predominantly the club conversations that are happening are audio only. Uh,
Okay.
Outside conversation could be audio, the public conversation could be audio or video,
Mm.
depending on whether they are looking to do it like an interview or a podcast, or they are
Right.
or they are looking to just have a group of people who are just wanting to having a public discussion that way. So that choices people have, and we are going to, in our upcoming release, we are going to make that much easier, much simpler. So our challenge has to be actually now, because we were so feature rich, we had done so much ahead, right? So we are right now actually simplifying stuff, making it
Right.
easier for people to actually use this much
Hmm.
better and much easier and understand that, look, this is something that you can do every day.
No, but that's great now because if you're feature rich, that allows you to, I mean, like it allows you to work with
Test
creators
what
and
is
give them
working.
no and give
Mhm.
creators deeper tools, right? You can simplify the interface for participants, but the people who are running your rooms, they
Yes.
can get richer tools, which I think would be really interesting.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we are working with all the feedback that we get.
Mm,
We are not averse to criticism. We
mm,
believe criticism helps us to improve, become better. It holds us accountable to build the best. We are we have a lot of user love, a lot of feedback that comes to us. People voluntarily telling us, look, this is something that I can do for you. Look, this is what I will do. There are groups created where people just talk about how we can promote Layer and get it across to everyone out there. And this is volunteer driven, there's a community
Wow.
driven, they really want to do that.
mm,
And we love that fact that this is so there is this concept of build in public, right, and which is becoming a light right now. My
Hmm.
personal belief is specifically, so something that we are building, we want to build with public, right? So they are integral part of a network and we
mm,
want to build with them. And that is much more fun because all of them have a sense of ownership, a sense of belonging, and a sense of pride in that fact that they are going to take Leher global from India. They are
mm,
going to make a dent in the universe. See, prior to this opportunity that we are seeing today, where we have Leher as at least a horse in the race, all networks had been given to us. You'll take
mm,
this Facebook, come here. Take this WhatsApp, come here. Take this Twitter, come here. Right? This is the first time ever that we have a horse in the race.
mm.
Right? So if there is a horse in the race, we have
True.
a chance to win. We never
Right.
had a chance before. So
True.
people are actually coming
True.
up for that, and people really believing in that, and it's a ethereal experience, right?
Mm.
Right? A hungry entrepreneur can live on this kind of ecstasy forever, right? And people are building with you, and people are caring so much about you.
No,
Great. I
that's
interrupted
awesome.
something you wanted to ask you. Sorry about that.
I actually wanted to, I wanted to ask a little bit about the roadmap, and I think you sort of answered it, right? It's you're building with public means people can basically influence your roadmap
Yes.
by giving you the
So,
right
so
feedback.
what we are trying to do is we are trying to improve the experience and make it much simpler. We are trying to give them ways in which they can create much richer network within the platform. We are trying to reduce the nuisance. So, for example, people can DM. So, since it's a network, people can DM each
Yeah.
other. There is a concept of video AMA built in. which is not on the surface. So I could actually send you a question in the DM and you can reply via video. Why is that existent? Because it will catalog all your answers and knowledge and create a profile on the network, so that someone who comes in and looks at a Shiladitya's profile or Amit's profile immediately is able to connect, saying, this is the guy I want to have a conversation with. Let me invite him to a room that I want to go about, right? Because every social network owns a part of your identity, right? So your friend's identity is at Facebook, your professional identity is LinkedIn. We want to be your thought expression and beliefs identity. What you believe in, what you really talk about, who are the people you want to connect in, what your passions. This identity should be here. And a way to do that is putting your genuine self out there via this Q&A that happens where people can just ask you random things. It will be collation of your knowledge, experience, and opinions in a single place. But all of this also has certain edge things that we need to figure out, saying how do we reduce nuisance, how do we get most value. So simplify, focus on the user experience, get them to have great conversations, help them build high quality networks on the platform, and grow along with them to ensure that they are here and learning and having fun all the time.
A question again pops to mind, right? Do you have a sense of what your long-term business model is going to be over here? Is it going to be brand supported? Is it going to be subscription supported? Or is it going to be like extra features to certain types of users?
So I think all three could be possible. You have to understand that we want to have a business model where we are which is based on value exchange, and our belief is when there is a value exchange, either it's between the brand and the consumer, or brand and the creator, or it's between the consumer and the club creator curator, or it is a transactional in nature. If there is a value exchange, that is something that you are delighted as a user, you will pay for it, right? So we would want to track these value exchanges and try to find ways to monetize these value exchanges, which could mean we could pick any of those or all of those together as more and more value get generated at that point in time, right? So we have to be open to that as a fact and focus on creating value exchanges really well.
Interesting.
In fact, I think no one has. I'm sure your investors may have asked you that question, but I think right now the social network, or the, like you said, right? Even today, I actually don't know what Reddit's business model is.
It's mostly, I think, they mostly earn, if I'm not mistaken, through like the stickers and stuff like that, right?
So there is a combination of virtual stuff and ads, which are purely remarketed, and they are doing well. I guess that's that. I think they recently raised another boatload of money, very
Yeah.
recently
So
that way. So they are
it's
doing pretty well.
funded, but it's not like
No, its revenue is
it's-
growing. Its revenue is
yeah.
massively growing, actually.
Yeah, it's Condé Nast owned, right? So I mean, like it's funded, yes, but it's part of a large, it's part of a large
media.
publishing group. Yeah,
Yeah.
but from what I recently remember reading is like, they do a lot of these now sticker things, right? That each subreddit can create its own stickers based on different things, and then basically there's a way to monetize through that. And people basically will give you gold for comments, silver for comments, or like subreddit specific stuff for comments.
So as I
Pay
said,
for information.
value exchange. I'd not say so. When we try to simplify or put a very end case labels on that, it starts becoming more complicated. If you actually simply say, boss, if there is a value exchange that people really want on a very regular basis, you will be able to find a way to monetize that.
Yeah.
Right. So that is
same kind of thing, right? Awesome comment, or awesome thing that you said, or something like that. So somebody does some tipping or something like that.
So as more and more people become economically, so as a world we are growing economically well, and as a world we are becoming more consumerism is increasing that way. So I think all value exchanges which are done well could be monetized.
Wow, that's nice. That's another, I would say, a trend which you're definitely seeing
So
in terms of.
I would
Yeah.
want to take an apology. I tend up introducing a lot of my own terms of things because I right. So I hope some of them catch on, or I find a better term. So one of my co-founders, earlier co-founder Lalit, used to say was, why can't you use industry standard terminologies? And I used to say, अरे मुझे मिली नहीं तो मैं क्या करूं?
Exactly. You create your own. It's new content and it'll become a buzzword,
So I,
just like
I
drop in
generally
audio.
I think very first principles way. And if you look at the two startups I've done, I have nothing that I knew before the first startup of real estate and communities, and I had nothing that I knew of social networks. Yeah, definitely I had some idea of building neighborhood networks, but a mobile first social network, which is purely what I'd say is it's a silent need or a hidden need which people don't. So when people, you cannot evaluate a social network product from the same frameworks that you use to evaluate an evolutionary company, because there
Yeah.
is hardly any job to be done framework you can provide on that. So you never needed a Facebook. You never needed a Twitter, right? If someone came with a survey and everything else and stuff said, and you will say, ठीक है. You didn't never care, right? So it's very
Yeah.
hard to validate those things. You have to really base it on fundamental research and fundamental human understanding, and hope that you are timing it right.
That's true. That is absolutely true. And like you said, the industry first word phrases that you are coining also are probably born out of the same thing. That they didn't exist before. And value exchange is actually something, of course, I have heard, but I think it's becoming a more recent form of monetization or an actual business definition that people are latching onto, especially digital products, instead of the mindset of that everything has to be ad supported or big money supported. It can actually be micro value exchanges as well, and we're starting to
Correct.
see that, of course. But
Correct.
uh, because I mean, I think there's a lot which I obviously can continue thinking of, and like your product, we should obviously have these, quick and easy to have conversations with like-minded people a lot more. So where do people find you on their existing social networks, and of course on Leher, and how do you get to Leher? You want to do a shout out to anyone who wants to give you feedback, join your team maybe, to other entrepreneurs listening to this?
Thank you very much. I think this is the opportunity I was waiting for, right? So, Shiladitya, Amit, join the revolution. Let's build a product at the global level. Let's at least give our best to make that happen. I am available on Leher at Vikas. You'll just land in. There is a high probability you'll get a DM from me, and I actually respond to that. A lot of people get very excited about that. So download leher.app. You can go to, or Leher app. You search. You will get us there. I'm at Vikas on Leher. On other networks, at Vikas Malpani. You search predominantly, it's going to be me. I'm available for all feedback, all support, all help. I think we are going to build this with you together, and we are going to win this. We are 550 million of us here. It's time that we have a network of our own dominating the world.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Great. Also, let me just quickly remind everybody, please give us a review, give us a rating wherever you're listening. I was looking through the reviews that we have on Apple Podcasts, not sufficient for the number of people listening to this and who are, who are listening on an Apple phone. Please go and review us. It helps. It really does. It brings us up on those rankings and increases the kind of listening,
And
right?
Amit has
Also,
an iPad now, so he
I
can
do have an
actually see
iPad
them.
now. I have an iPad now for Vikas's competitor. They forced me into it. But no,
Oh,
also just please everybody. Also, we are putting video versions on YouTube, so they come out at the same time on Friday as the audio does. So please do check us out there if you'd like to.
Yeah, and of course, let's have continue this conversation on the hair, of course.
yes. I'll see you guys there on our
For sure.
nightly hangout in the startup folks. We have some of the big names joining us very frequently, getting a lot of support and love. Just
Yeah,
yesterday, BS has tweeted about us, right?
Nice.
So it's going to be fun, and you guys are like pioneers in audio. So it would be really amazing to hear your views on this, and
100%.
keep seeing you around, and we would want to pick your brain. And I see Amit as someone who's seen the world a lot in the technology space, so he'd be very interesting for the younger folks to pick his brain, right? And probably cause some distress and frustration.
Let's set you up, Amit. I think you have a lot of budding audio entrepreneurs who want to talk to you.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely do something. We'll talk about this. I've got some ideas about stuff we should
And
be
I
doing.
think you will have to sell your iPad on the OLX very soon, man.
Listen, dude. Okay, I'm not gonna do this because I know we do have a large chunk of iOS listeners, but my God, it was such a pain in the ass to set up.
Actually, I actually bought an iOS device for my testing purposes, and I say this is a on ventilator device all the time because the charger is pretty much connected all the time. But
Yeah, it is. I don't want to use it. I got it. I can't believe I bought this device like less than a week ago, and I don't pick it up. I mean, like, I can't remember. Like, I buy a new, otherwise, I buy a new laptop or I buy a new PC or a Kindle or something. I'm obsessed with it for the first couple of weeks. Like, I just keep like, playing around with it. But this iPad, I'm like, okay, whatever, let it be.
no, I think
Okay.
it's a well-made product. It's just that it's pretty different, and I only have the grouse of the battery, right? I think
Yeah.
they have done a phenomenal job everywhere else. Why can't they fix the damn battery, man? Right? But since the first version, I was listening to the Steve Jobs live back then. We couldn't see a video in 2007 September, I guess it was happening. Why
Mhm.
when he first time launched the iPhone, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
And since then I wanted to buy iPhone. I at least ordered it 8 to 10 times and canceled that because I can't live with a phone and a brick with the same in my pocket at the same time, right? It's just can't, right? So finally I bought this because I had to use for testing purposes,
Mhm.
but yeah, I hope they
Yeah,
they
lot of
they after 13 years of freaking making this, they get something in their head to make the battery right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, battery is an issue for sure. But also, I mean, like, just some of the stuff which they never mind. I can keep going on and
we
on
can.
about this.
This is a
It,
conversation for the hair.
this
Definitely.
is a
Yes, yes.
conversation for this
Yes,
is a conversation
in
for that.
fact, last night we were having a conversation on Kindle versus physical books, and it was phenomenal. It was
Yeah.
phenomenal, right? There were 10, 12 people wanting to speak, and the whole text, I might actually just show you there is a parallel conversation that keeps going on the tech side of things. So there are a lot of people who want to be passively active, right? So they
Yeah.
might be in a
Who just want
different.
to drop a comment and then step
So
back. Yeah.
not just drop a comment, they're having a full blown comment conversation alongside, right? So it's not just. So if you look at, let me just see if I can show you my screen. So you have these hundreds of comments, and these are
Yeah.
all last night,
Oh
right?
wow. Okay.
So there are people recommending what to do, what not, asking questions. So there is a question box. People can ask questions. There is a real time poll that you can do. So real time people are figuring out who likes physical book, who likes Kindle, and that poll is like going very dynamic. Whoever is there, and hundreds of comments, and then people go on picking up the book recommendations. So it's a very free flowing,
Nice.
crazy. I would say Leher is more vibrant and young that way,
Mm.
comparatively to probably just lay back and listening stuff, right? So that
Right.
way you see a lot of passive active and active conversations happening on there.
Yeah. Very very cool. No, I'm definitely gonna play around with it, and I'm gonna connect with you. I've got some things that I have some thoughts about things we could
I would
possibly do
love
together.
to.
Nice.
I would love to
Yeah.
hear you. And,
Nice.
and Shiladitya has been very helpful, and these guys, and Anand has been on
Yeah,
the
Anand's
hair,
done a
right? And in fact,
chat. No, we will do more chats there for sure. Especially after this episode is out, I'm sure a lot more people hopefully join us on the hair and for the follow up of this conversation.
I love this conversation. I think it could have been much more exciting on Leher, by the way,
Yes, yes, which is
because a lot of people would be sending us a lot of comments, and you could real time bring them up and have conversation going on. So I think
Very.
it suits you
let's
really
do it.
well, and thank
Yeah.
you very
Let's
much for
do it.
having
Thank you.
me. I hope I did justice to your time, and I had a good
This
time.
was
Uh,
awesome. This was
yeah,
awesome,
it was
Vikas.
great.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you, guys. I think there was Deep, and I think it is Vinaya. Thank you very much for doing this. And Amit and Shiladitya, thank
All
you again.
right.
Thank
Thank you.